Hi, my name is Paul, and I make my living by telling stories. Really, this is what I do. Sometimes I go in front of the large crowds of people to tell the story. I'm a public speaker. Sometimes I write. I wrote 3 books, but most of the time I help my customers tell their stories. I'm a brand strategist. I help companies such as HBO, Orange, or Diners Club International, and many smaller companies like startups to tell their stories and to achieve their goals. And recently, I did something called Ask Me Anything on one of the Facebook's copywriters group. And one of the most common questions I received was this: should I brand myself as me, as in Michael Brown, the copywriter, or should I create a brand for my company, as in unforgettable copywriting? But before we start, there's a third option that many of you don't think about. Should I brand myself at all? Because there are situations when branding is just not needed. In 1986, a book was published by Michael Gerber. The book title was The E-Myth. This is the book I wish I had read before I started my own company 17 years ago. Because the main topic of the book can be summed up in this sentence. If you love doing something, like writing an unforgettable copy, designing websites, or baking cakes, then the last thing you should do is to start a company. Because as soon as you start a company, your focus shifts from baking cakes or writing a copy to prospecting, negotiating, paying taxes, eventually to hiring a new person, negotiating payroll with your team, and you stop doing what you love. I've seen you on the group saying how miserable you felt when you had to do the cold calling, or how anxious you felt to be invited to a meeting at the client's place. And you thought to yourself, I wish they just let me sit at my computer and write my copy, or do my designs, or bake my cakes. And if this is the case, if these are your thoughts, then Gerber says, find someone who will pay you for doing what you love. Get a 9 to 5 job, get paid, and don't worry about a thing. Be a happy cog in a huge corporation. And knowing what you know now, you should be asking yourself this question: do I want to build a company? Because the answer to the question from the very beginning, should I brand myself as me, or should I create a brand for my company, boils down to one thing. Do I want to build a company, or do I want to build a brand to get me a job? If you think about the value of brands of the world, the most valuable ones are not personal brands. Walmarts, Apples, and Googles of this world are worth far more, and I mean by a couple of orders of magnitude, than Michael Jordan's, Kim Kardashian's, or Elon Musk's of this world. Why is that? It comes down to the problem of scaling up. Let's suppose you started your own company and the customers are pouring in. I wish you all had that problem. And your calendar quickly becomes full because there are only so many hours you can devote to work during the day. And if this is the place where you want to be, if you just want to have your calendar full and still write the copy, then you should definitely brand yourself as you. But how do you scale up in this situation? You can slightly increase the hours you devote to writing by delegating some of the tasks, such as prospecting, to a silent partner. They will be the ones who answer emails, do the cold calling, and you can focus on writing, designing, baking, whatever gets you going. You can also scale up by optimizing the hours you put in already. This means raising the prices. If the demand for your services is greater than the supply, then the smart thing to do is to sell your hours to the highest bidder. This means getting rid of some of your old customers. But you know what they say, business is business. But for some of you, this process might be a difficult one because you have a relationship with a customer. So consider this at the very beginning of your career as well. The second way of scaling up is to increase the hours your company can devote to the copywriting. And that means hiring additional people. And this is where the difficulties arise. If you increase the hours, you should plan it from the very beginning, because it requires you to add a certain process to your branding. This process is called detaching skills from a person, and it feels unnatural. Think of it this way. If you brand yourself as you, people will want you to write the copy for them. And they will be disappointed when they learn that it was written by someone else, by an employee of you. On the other hand, think of your last visit at McDonald's. Why weren't you disappointed that your burger was cooked by a different person than during your last visit? Because you don't trust the person to do the job. You trust the procedure. And adding a procedure, a middleman, between you and your work feels unnatural when you're the only person at your company. You can't say to your customer, here's the great work I did for you thanks to my skills. You have to say, here's the great work my company did for you thanks to our excellent procedures. And you can brand procedures with your name, as in this copy was written using Paul Ska's 9 steps to excellent copywriting, but you can never brand your work. So the answer to should I brand myself as me or should I brand myself as a company question should be posed like this. Do I want to create a job for myself, either as a hired cog or a freelancer? Or do I look to create a scalable company with procedures and detaching skills from people from day one? But remember, in the last scenario, you probably won't be doing much of copywriting. So these are the things you need to consider. If you want to create a job for yourself, then by all means, brand yourself as you. But if you look to create a company, then you need to add certain processes. You will probably scale up more, but you will probably do copywriting less. So that's all for me. Thank you for listening.